So, you fancy Genshin Impact? Or maybe you've seen the trailer for Black Myth Wukong? Or played that addictive Chinese indie horror game on Steam? But for the most part, the Chinese language gaming ecosystem is invisible. But China has marquee franchises all on its own. It's homegrown Final Fantasies, storied institutions with countless installments and spin-offs. Today, we're gonna do a deep dive on the most unlikely success story in the archives of Chinese gaming, Monopoly. Yes, that Monopoly. With 11 mainline installments and counting. So the game Monopoly, Da Fu Weng, shares its Chinese name with the famous board game, which first landed in China before strict copyright laws did. So while it does refer to the board game we all know and love, the current official Hasbro version has a slightly different Chinese name, Di Chan Da Heng. That way, it can kind of still enforce its trademark. For similar reasons, Monopoly, Da Fu Weng, can't be called Monopoly in English, so the series goes by Richman instead. And to avoid all confusion, we're gonna stick with Richman. Richman is one part digital Monopoly, another Mario Party meets Itadaki Street Special with plenty of unique quirks. An unassuming series that began as a founding document in Taiwan's game development scene and beat the odds to survive the mobile game era to make its English debut alongside the Switch and closest to its gaming cousins. But before we get deeper into the rabbit hole, subscribe to the channel. But hey, I settle for a like. I know it's a Monopoly, but I'm not a greedy man. For context, truthfully, the embryonic days of Chinese game development belong to the Famiclones, the bootlegs, obvious imitations, and rampant IP theft. Yet this characterization is not to dismiss the technical inventiveness and ambition of these cowboys on the margins in their time. To be blunt, as far as the golden retro age of gaming goes, from the 80s through the mid-90s, China, especially the mainland, lacked economic clout to support a thriving domestic gaming ecosystem. Paired with a suspicious government, conditions favored the pirates and bootleggers. However, Taiwan and Hong Kong were relatively ahead in development, serving as the first test outpost for giants like Sega and Nintendo to officially enter the Chinese market. So it was in Taiwan that Softstar, the most influential early Chinese developer of original games, was born. Today, Softstar is most closely associated with its two long-running flagship genres, wuxia RPG, Sword and Fairy, and Xuan Yuan's Sword. But back in 1989, before he became the father of the sword, with Sword and Fairy, 20-year-old Yao Zhongxian was working independently on his first game when he caught the attention of Li Yongjin, founder of the newly created Softstar. The company was less than a year old and only had 4 employees at the time. Monopoly had long been popular in Taiwan, and the Chinese mindset of rags to riches spoke to an improvised Yao and will prove a hit with a growing consumer class. Softstar snapped up the rights of Monopoly for 100,000 Taiwanese dollars as Yao continued to polish the game for 3 months until its eventual November 28, 1989 release. Regarding gameplay, the manual states, and I quote, "In the game, there are many ways to make money through the traditional means of land acquisition, housing, opportunity, or fate. These still form the main structure. There are many possibilities, such as the influence of current events, accidents, prison, and hospitalization." Sales topped 30,000 units. Clones by other companies followed. A sequel dropped in 1993 after Yao's stint in the army, bringing the game into color and adding special ability cards and powers of various gods that will become an absolute staple of the series, lending it an increasingly distinct identity from its Monopoly origins. Richman also departs from the board game by including lottery, banking deposits, credit functions, and stock market mechanics, as well as a wealth of building types with unique effects. Each round counts as a day, and banks, along with stock markets, are naturally closed on weekends. gameplay intensifies as the price index steps up with time. Now, one of the tricks is I learned throughout my gameplay is that you want to buy the ones that are always in the red. Let's go with the challenge arena steel. Let's do 1,000 for now. All right, let's go back. Characters have their own backstories, and specific bonuses and vehicles can be obtained, which allow you to choose how many dice to roll. I want to step foot on the god. Nice.
God wishes you to be rolling in money
all the way. Slot machine? Nice. Boards are branching unlike vanilla Monopoly. Additionally, you are not required to own an entire street to build. Things are fleshed out by mini games and story campaigns. Here, gameplay boils down to layers of liquidity. Your total assets may not save you from bankruptcy. You can only make purchases with the cash you have on hand. You can dip into your bank savings to pay back debts, but your stock market investments can't save you unless you can cash out in time. So managing cash flow is absolutely crucial. You can only access the bank if you physically pass it on the board. If the cap is reached, you can't convert your shares. You can add dozens of special cards, including battle cards like missiles and bombs and deities that can even possess you. So the God of Fortune gives you a level for free for your property and gives you some free cards. Are we still talking about Monopoly? 1998's Richman 4 is undisputedly the best love entry. For many, Richman 4 is the Richman, period. It brought the series out of DOS into 3D, selling 226,000 copies in Taiwan and likely millions in the mainland. What's more, Richman 4 has seen a remake on mobile paired with English support and re-released on Steam. Next up came the controversial real-time gameplay of Richman 5 that also stripped local multiplayer, a shakeup largely considered a major misstep. Richman 6 was a return to form, and by Richman 7 and 8, mobile and online games were overshadowing the series that was starting to show its age. Then there were web-based and online-oriented iterations, and in 2016, Richman 9 became the first mobile Richman game. The future seemed uncertain. Series creator Yao took to the Chinese social media to promote the end of Richman, at least on consoles. But as it turns out, such talk was premature, and after a short hiatus, Richman was back for a 10th installment in 2019 on mobile. But also as a truly multi-platform game with Xbox, Switch, and PC editions arriving as well. Sadly, the game was more or less panned by critics for performance issues, a lackluster translation, and numerous questionable gameplay formula tweaks to speed up the pace for the modern era. 2022's Richman 11, the newest to date, goes some way to addressing these problems, offering a back-to-basics approach and also enjoying a wide release. The true joy of Richman is playing with a group of friends. Like Monopoly, it's about amassing riches and screwing people over in the process. Maybe that says something about China at the time, but I like to think it says something about us all. As the long legacy and now global reach of Richman attests, we can all be united in the joy of keeping the dream alive. Get Richman or die trying.